Hey guys, it's speaker box time. This video might be a little bit more passive than active, might be just a little bit more of you watching what I'm doing, but I'm gonna try and take some time to explain what's going on. If you haven't watched the subs and math video to see what numbers we're gonna be working with to get the dimensions right on this speaker box, sub box, on this sub box, let's do that one more time. If you haven't watched the subs and math video to get an idea of what dimensions we're working with so our airspace was correct for this sub box, I'll put a card here, I think. I'm gonna try and figure out how to do that right up in there. But yeah, all right. Let's jump into it. Here we go. One thing that I like to do is go ahead and pre-drill holes. That way whenever your screw goes in, you're not splitting the MDF. 3/4 inch MDF isn't very good at taking a screw in the end and not just splitting out. If you want it to all stay tight, it's easy just to drill another hole and then run your screw right down that same hole. Now that we've got the top on, we're going to do the same thing to the bottom and make sure we're square. Here's our face board, just roughly sitting in there. We went ahead and cut our angles on this section and that section because it is at an angle, it's not a square cut. Gonna have to drill pilot, screw that board on, and it's starting to look a little more like speaker box. First test fit. It's kind of tight, but she fits in good. So after taking a long lunch because it's hot outside, I went ahead and marked the center line right in there, and then I went out 1 inch on each side so that the subs are spaced 2 inches apart in the center. I'm trying to center everything up because in the back of the car, center will be a little bit better, so we'll have a little more gap on the outside. All right, that's the 4 sides. We have not done the center brace or the ends yet. I want to get these holes cut out so I can center it up a little bit better on that center brace. We traced around the outside edge of the speaker, which is the outer ring. The inner ring is a bucket that I had that's going to be pretty close. It'd be a good starting point for measuring out where the actual sub's going to drop in. As you can see, the center support has just been screwed in. I did go ahead and double layer that center beam with a decent sized hole in the middle just to let it breathe from the left side to the right side. Got our ends to go and then we can seal it up. Still incredibly wet. All the liquid nail sealing the insides. You can see the inner support being double deep. Liquid nail on every edge all the way around on the inside. And then took a little bit and slapped it in a few of the edges on the ends, face, and back where it had just the slightest little bit of gap. It's all sealed from the inside, but this way it just makes it that much stronger. And we can let this set up overnight. As you can see, we got our face board on. I've taken a little bit of black spray paint and gone around the perimeters. All right, so we've got our 2 holes here. Now one thing that I like to do, rather than getting a plastic plug to be able to wire things to, wiring your subs to the plastic plug and then running the wire back and forth, I like to get a couple nuts and bolts. Take a little bit of spray paint to the end of them so you know which sides are positive lead, which sides are negative lead. Run them through so you can disconnect on the inside or the outside, whichever you think is going to be less permanent. Typically I run them this way, so I'll wire the subs to the top of this on the inside, and then on the outside I can run off of a second nut over to the amplifier itself. It's cheap, it's easy, super strong, and I think it looks kind of industrial when it's all done. Alright, so holes drilled, wires are all, got the ends for the inside for this sub, ends for the inside for the other sub. That wire's gonna have to poke through that way. Now I'm going to set you back and show you how I seal the hole and how I run the bolts through. From the inside, take my red stud, put it through my red wires. Big washer. On the inside you get something that looks kind of like this. Just right way you can see that. And we want the power on top, we want the ground on the bottom. We'll do the same thing on the ground side. Washer, ground, ground, big washer, poked into the hole slightly. Now I like to use a little bit of liquid nail, which is the same thing I use to seal the actual box itself. But you want to get that kind of together, otherwise you'll end up with liquid nail all over the inside and it's just super nasty. So you can see that the studs are kind of poked through just a little bit. Got the wires, everything on them. Now what I like to do, kind of lift that up just a little bit, kind of flip that over, and we'll just put a little bit of liquid nailer in the inside of this. Poke that back down in. So we've got our 2 studs coming through. We've got the positive on top, ground on the bottom. What I'm going to do on this side is basically the same thing I did on the other. Put a little bit of liquid nail. And that's way more than we need. It only needs to have a little bit to seal that off. Put that back out of the way. Big washer first. I'm going to reach in from the back side to make sure nothing pokes through any further than it should. Lock nut's the one we want to put first. Run the lock nut down first. Kind of helps pinch some of that liquid nail in there, and it secures the stud to the box itself. We do the same thing on the ground stud. There we go. Ground stud is tight also. I'm gonna wipe this off my wrench. So as you can see, we now have 2 studs coming through. You can still see where I painted the ends on each one. We got a black stud to the ground, and we got the positive stud, which is red. I've chosen to run red wire and then an off-color wire. Red's gonna be my positive. Run that down. I've got 2 washers for each, so it kind of does a little bit of a sandwich. I'll take the nut that I spray painted so you can see which is which. We'll take a wrench and tighten those down in a second, but this will run right over to the amplifier. Positive on top, negative on the bottom. We should be able to wire it up fairly quickly from there. All right, there we go. Put a little bit of vinyl over the front of it. Wraps down on the bottom, a little on the sides, and a little over the back. From in the car, whenever the trunk is open, all you're gonna see is these 2 faces, and that's the sides that look good. Then we gotta get the amp on the back and put it in the car. Installed, covered, wired up. Corner comes up just pretty much flush with this corner edge here. Same thing on the other side. That box fits in there perfect. Got that height in here just under these hooks, so they're not rubbing the back of it. Only thing now is turn it on and listen to it bump. There you go. Built a box, put some subs and an amp in the back of the beetle. Sounds a whole lot better. Now I'm gonna run around and see if I can't set off some car alarms with this thing. I'll see y'all next time.